Hey everybody, it's Pastor Brian Ross from Grace Life Bible Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I want to welcome you to this video. Trying to have a little bit more frequency here of late with making a video every week. It is the third week of school for me, so I have been fairly busy and I'm just trying to get to these videos as I have time to prepare for them. So what I want to talk about in this video is something that came up in May of this year, 2025, when I was a guest on Nick Sayers' channel, Revolution. We were talking about different things related to my co-authored book with Dave Reed, The Myth of Verbatim Identicality, how God actually preserved his word. And Nick brought up an example that I had not encountered myself, and that is related to the word accompted, or that's how I'm pronouncing it. Somebody might pronounce it differently. But here's Luke 21, verse 36 in the 1611 King James Bible. So we're talking about this right here. Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be accompted worthy to escape. Okay? So accompted is the word. Nick brought this up as an example of a word that has changed in the different editions of the King James Bible when we were talking about concepts related to verbatim identicality and verbal equivalence. Again, discussing the myth of verbatim identicality when doing that. So I didn't have a lot of time this summer, so eventually I got around to looking at this a little bit and considering some of the different printings. And what I found regarding Accompted is extremely interesting. And so what I want to do is I want to cover with you in this video a series of editions. So those of you who don't know, I am working with Alex Boyko on a folder, a Dropbox folder that has as many editions of the King James Bible in it as we can find online and download and save. So we start right here. Here's the 1611, and the catalog. The numbers here are the catalog number in Herbert's catalog. So we have 309, H309, the He Bible. We have the 1611, H309 She Bible, and then we have all these different printings. So starting with 1612, and if I scroll down here, I mean, we got multiple printings from the 1610s, 1620s into the 1630s. And this extends now all the way to 1700 if you just permit me to scroll down through here. So we can go all the way into the 1700s now in this catalog listing that we've been able to establish. So I was able to pull a lot of different printings, and I focused my methodology in this was I started with the 1611 and then I jumped to the Cambridge 1629 to see what they had here for Accompted, and they had changed it to Accounted. Okay, so then from there, from 1629, I started to work my way back. Well, when did that change first occur? And so I worked through printings of in the 1620s and then through the 1610s to try to get a handle on when Accompted was changed to Accounted. Okay, and what I found was interesting. Before I go any further, though, I want to show you this. All right, so if I look up Accompt in the OED, you have a noun variant and you have a verb variant. In the case of Luke 21:36, we're dealing with a verb, okay? But notice accompt, to reckon, okay, estimate, value, hold, transitive, and notice here that this is a variant of account. So accompt is a variant of the word account. Now, it's a different word in that it's spelled different, but the meaning is the same. They have the same meaning, whether you have accompt or whether you have account. So we could click on the entry here for the verb, and I could type in accompt, and you'll see that there are multiple, 30 in fact, different occurrences of where this word is, where the word account is being defined with word usage examples of accompt or various forms of that word. Okay, we could further use the tools here on the OED website, and we could go look at the Middle English Dictionary for accountant, which is a earlier form in Middle English of the word, and we can see also here that this accompt is one of the forms of accountant even in Middle English. Okay, and then we can further look at the online etymological dictionary and look at a few interesting things here. So notice we're in the entry for account. 1300, accounting, especially reckoning of money received and paid. A lot of different things here. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check this out yourself. But then notice here, from the first, it was often in plural form. Sometimes in late Middle English, it was accompt. See, account. All right. So two different English language resources now, the Oxford English Dictionary and the online Etymological Dictionary, are saying that accompt and account are basically meaning the same thing. We could scroll down a little bit further, and I found this interesting as well. The spellings accompt and accomtable, etc., are artificial forms used not prevailingly in the 16th and early 17th centuries. They are now obsolete or nearly so, though accompt and accomptant may still be used in the formal or legal style. So there might be some specific applications where these words are still used, particularly in the legal style, which I find interesting. So these two words, while spelled different, mean the same thing. They carry the same meaning, accompt and account. Okay, so then what I did is I went and grabbed, this is a 1612 London Octavo, H315. So this is a different size, okay? But this is also printed by the King's printer, Robert Barker, in London the year after the 1611 was published. And again, the 1611 had Accompted here. The next year, there's a octavo edition in Roman font published, and notice what it says. Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be accounted. So the very next year, 1612, in a smaller size octavo, the word is accounted. So it's switched in an octavo the very next year in 1612. Okay, now things get more interesting. If we go to 1616 folio, so this is still the largest size, the same as the 1611 folio, we can see right here in verse 36 that they are retaining accompted, the same as they had in 1611. So now what we're starting to see is that the various sized editions of the King James Bible that are being published in the 1610s by Robert Barker, the King's printer, are not the same. They are not identical to each other. One has the word accounted and another has the word accompted. So if you're buying a folio, you will have the word accompted in the text. If you're buying a octavo, you have the word accounted in the text. The same publisher, same printer is printing different forms of the text, one with accompted, one with accounted. Now, the reason why this is important is because we have many, I don't know if many is right, but some who have been critical of the concept that we have set forth in the book, The Myth of Verbatim Identicality, and saying, no, you need to have the exact words in the exact order in order to have preservation, in order to have God's word. I can think of one primary critic who has basically made this argument, okay? And so is that the case? If that's the case, then we have variation within the text by the same publisher across different sized editions. Now, it does get more interesting as we go through this. We could look at a 1617 folio in Roman, or 1617 octavo in Roman font, okay? And we can look at this and notice here we have a third word. Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be counted. So now we have accompted, accounted, and just counted in three different editions of the King's printer in the 1610s, okay? So if we are going to demand as the standard for preservation verbatim identicality, then somebody's going to have to say that, well, these are illegitimate issues. One of these or two of these are illegitimate because you don't have an exact identicality across all of the different editions published by Robert Barker. But let me ask you, is there any substantive difference in meaning if the text reads here, accompted, accounted, or counted? By all the available lexicographical information, they mean the same thing. Whether you're talking about the OED, whether you're talking about the online Etymological Dictionary, whether you're talking about the Middle English Dictionary, accompted, accounted, and counted mean the same thing. And we have three different forms or three different variations in the text by the King's printer throughout the 1610s. Now, we could also look at a duodecimo edition. Okay, so here's a 1617 duodecimo edition. And we have here, notice, here's verse 36, Luke 21:36. Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be counted worthy. So there it is, counted. So what does this mean? We have a 1617 folio, a 16, so here's the folio again. Where does that go? Apparently I forgot to call that one up, but we have a 1617 folio, we have a 1617 octavo, and we have a 1617 duodecimo that are all different in the way they are worded in Luke chapter 21, verse 36. So again, if you accept the concept of verbal equivalence, that you don't have to have verbatim identicality, but what you have to have is verbal equivalence, none of these are a problem, because whether it's accompted, accounted, or counted, they all mean the same thing. The substantive nature of the text is not altered in what the text is communicating, no matter which one of those three words are in the text. Okay, we could go to 1620. There's a 1620 London octavo, verse 36. Watch ye therefore and pray always. By the way, there's a bunch of different spellings of always, but we're not getting into that. That ye may be counted. There's counted again, worthy. So again, we have counted there. Then we could jump to the 1629 London folio. Okay, so here's the 1629 London folio. Watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be accounted worthy. So by 1629, the King's printer had changed in its folio editions the word from accompted to accounted. But previous editions, particularly octavos and some duodecimos in the 1610s, had it counted. So you have three different readings by the King's printer, by editions coming from the same press by the King's printer during this time. So again, if we are going to demand that you have to have verbatim identicality, then there's a problem here. And by the way, these are obviously edits. These are obviously editorial changes made to the text. And the King's printer is publishing three different forms of the text. But none of these changes, whether it's accompted, accounted, or counted, are substantively altering the text. Now, as you work through time, eventually accounted settles out as the standard reading. But you had multiple forms of this verse in the printed history of the King James text before that got standardized. And I'm going to say, based upon what I've looked at, that Cambridge seems to have been the one to standardize this, although there is some evidence in the London printings in the 1620s that it was beginning to take on a standard form. But now, obviously, I have a reader's edition of the King James right here that I do my daily devotional reading in, and it has accounted, as does my standard 1769 Oxford text here and my Schofield Reference Bible, and all of the other ones that I have here on the shelf at home have accounted as the normal reading in that verse. So this is just another example of where, if you're going to demand verbatim identicality as the standard for preservation across all these editions, you're going to have a problem. And it's also very clear that different editors were impacting the text. So here's another example of the principles that we've been talking about in the myth of verbatim identicality, how God actually preserved his word. If you want to check that out further, I'll leave a link in the description for where you can pick up a copy of the book. So, appreciate your time and attention. And as always, if you've never trusted Jesus Christ for your eternal salvation, if you've never relied exclusively in his death for you on the cross, his shed blood, and his resurrection from the dead as the only total complete payment for your sin, trust Jesus Christ today before it's everlasting too late. Stop relying on your work, your performance, your church going, your tithing, whatever it is that you're relying upon. Just trust and rely exclusively on Jesus Christ and what he did for you. Appreciate your attention, and we'll see you next time.